Paint Pro. This is I think the newest one that I'm aware of on the market. You can see the cloud, so you can store your images out on the cloud. But if you look at it, it really has the same basic kinds of things. It's just more and more of the tools and that kind of thing, but the same basic types of things that you would have in Photoshop. But this is not just about dealing with photos. It's mainly now we're starting to focus more on just painting in general. But we can see over here on the left our typical toolbar. Notice it's a single layer here, and then here's our layers. And we can have a layer 1 and a layer 2, and brush sizes that we can just click on them. So that's a typical kind of thing. And then you can see a preview of the brushes. Now, as opposed to Photoshop had the brush drop down over here, the layout for MediBang by default is you have the brushes over here, and we can just scroll through them and can see G-pen. That's in manga, it's a very commonly used pen. Pencil, pen. They have different names, and you can see the different watercolor and acrylic, those kinds of things. But the tools are laid out in a similar fashion. Notice this is a paint bucket, but when I click on the paint brush, notice it has the same paradigm, the same way of thinking, that there's a single paint brush, and the rest of these are specialized tools. We have, of course, the eraser. And then at the bottom are the things that we manipulate stuff, that moving of the hand to move around, and then the eyedropper tool. So let's go ahead and select a paint color, and let's try to select some pen that might be interesting. Let's try the watercolor and see how that looks. And I'm just going to paint on here with red, and then change the color to blue, maybe some green. And now I can select the eyedropper tool, come over here, and I can select the different colors, and we can see. Now notice here that we also have a transparent color. So in this tool, you can actually paint with transparent. So you can, in essence, erase. But it's better than erasing, because erasing usually goes back to the background color. But it could be similar depending upon the program that you have. But that's a very interesting kind of thing. So you don't actually have to change the tool. You just essentially change the color. Now, notice a common paradigm that you will have now in the advanced tools is that I don't have to actually select this eyedropper tool to change the color. I mean, if I'm going to do that, I might as well just go to the palette, unless I'm trying to match colors. And then go back to the paintbrush and paint. So selecting the color, that was the foreground color. So notice that the eyedropper is going to select the foreground color, and I had the transparency selected. So that's something to pay attention to. So I want to select the foreground color, and then I'm going to use the eyedropper and select which color I want, and I can select a background kind of thing, but notice it will be white in this particular case. Again, go back to the eyedropper, and I'm going to select red. And then I have to switch back to the brush. So I don't want to really switch back and forth between these tools. And so what we can do in the advanced programs is, if I press a key, usually there's a key combination that I can select. So I'm going to press Alt, and now the eyedropper tool comes up just by pressing the Alt key. And you'll see that I can then select what other color, paint, Alt, and select a different color. And notice with this watercolor thing, I can blend. And so we can get purples, can select a green, and I can kind of blend those in, select a purplish color here. And so that's a way that you can start to get these blending. Now we're getting into the things that you can do a lot more in real kind of painting. So in this case, again, we're using the Alt key to make that change. But in any case, the thing that I wanted to show here is the deletion of the layer. The layer colors, and in this particular case, as I'm drawing on layer 2 here, I can just press the delete key, and that's a very common situation. I don't have to actually select a particular region. I can delete everything on the layer. All right, so one other thing about MediBang Paint Pro that's interesting is that you have these reference lines that you can actually add to your drawing to make things easier. So that's a kind of really cool and unique feature. Some of the advanced programs have this, but that's something to play around with. The other thing to let you know is that all the advanced programs will allow you to customize your layout, and the advanced programs allow you to customize shortcut keys, control settings, and things like that. So those are powerful things I'm not going to go through right now, but notice here you can see layer, and it's got this these little icons, and I can actually make these go away. So for example, the brush size here, I can drag it over to the side, and now it's a floating window, so I can do that if I want. If I drag it on top, notice that the colors change, and depending upon where I drag to, I can change the order in which things are there. I can even click on the X and make it go away, but usually under window I can see the different things. So for example here, brush size.